Nation of Fitin10, it is day 18, and if you don't already know, the calendar is up for you to book your scan, so make sure you do so. www.calendly.com/train on Main. One other thing I want to say before I get into your feedback, I am not getting as many diaries, okay, food diaries. I want to see your food diaries. Now, this may not be a bad thing, but more often than not, it is a bad thing, okay? I want you to stay as engaged and as accountable as you can, or be as accountable as you can with me. And part of this is, of course, sending in your food journals, right? So, and this should be easier as time goes on, especially when you're replicating foods. You know, like especially if you're like replicating breakfasts or dinners or whatever, you can just swipe to I can't remember now, left or the right. So you swipe one way and then it'll fill in the same meal, or you can even just click on the ellipsis. So if you go into like whatever, meal one, and you click the ellipsis, I've got mine set up into meal one, meal two, meal three. It might say breakfast for you or something. Click on the ellipsis and you can select, copy from day and then whatever meal, right? So you can copy any meal, all right? And more often than not, people are replicating certain foods day in, day out. And that's not to say that you shouldn't have diversity. I think diversity actually is important, but ultimately you're probably gonna, roll through certain kinds of foods as the days go on or the weeks go on. So once it's in there, it makes it way easier, is my point. Okay, but send me your food diaries. This is super, super important. All right, feedback here. This is under name something specific you can improve upon for the following week. I need to plan, this person writes, ! I also missed sending my food diary both days. Speaking of which, both days this past weekend. I also want to build diversity into my meals. All right. Yeah, I mean, I think it's really important that you guys get a decent selection of vegetables and fruits, add in some starches. There's not a huge amount of natural starch. Well, there probably is, but I mean, we have to get quite creative. But if you're having fruits and vegetables, you're already getting a lot of carbohydrates there. And then adding in some starches, like I mentioned, some rice, some sort of tuber perhaps, maybe some rice-based pasta, something like that. Maybe a bread, perhaps. And then when it comes to your proteins, hopefully, well, I don't want to say hopefully, but I'm going to highly recommend that you eat animal-based proteins. At least some of your proteins should be animal-based. I understand we have some people that don't do that. That's okay. It just makes it easier. It makes it easier to have a well-rounded diet if you don't have anything that you've cut out of your diet, right? Anyways, all right. I feel like I'm rambling here. Let's get to the next question. Name something specific you need help with. When I go skiing on Sundays, we leave at 5 a.m. I eat. 7 a.m. 3/4 cup skyr yogurt. I'm assuming it's plain. Half banana, half scoop protein powder, a quarter cup of pecans. Make sure you weigh out your pecans. Weigh your banana, weigh your protein powder. On the way to the ski hill, I usually have a decaf coffee with 1 tablespoon of liquid whipping cream. Up on the hill, 11:30. 1 roast beef sandwich, about 100 grams of roast beef, some tzatziki sauce, a teaspoon of butter, 2 slices of sprouted wheat bread, 1/2 tablespoons of Natural Traditions Focus Fuel coffee. All right, is there caffeine in that? That's fine if there is, I'm just wondering. 2:30, RX bar, electrolytes. Yesterday I drank BioSteel because I forgot to bring mine from home. I was shaking by 2:30 and I had to go for a drink. Any thoughts on my nutrition? On these days, I do ski a lot of expert runs, also hike to alpine access points. Okay, All right. So, any thoughts on your nutrition? So, overall, I mean, I've looked at your nutrition many, many times because you always send it to me virtually. I don't think you've missed, or you've missed very few days. Your nutrition, in terms of what you listed here, I think is fine. You know, you're getting some good mixtures of proteins, carbohydrates. And I think maybe what you're referring to here is my nutrition okay based on the fact that you're feeling shaky? Not sure why you're feeling shaky. I would highly encourage you to have some electrolytes and water before you go on the ski hill. So maybe what I would suggest doing is do something like I do, for example, every morning is I don't actually eat first thing in the morning. I just have a concoction of, I have this big drink concoction of like, it's either lime or lemon. Okay, and then I do, forgive me if I already mentioned this, but just mention it one more time here quickly. Either half a lime or, a whole small lime or half a lemon. One of those two. I do about a quarter cup or an eighth of a cup of apple cider vinegar. I do a scoop of Electrolytes XL from ATP Lab. I do a scoop of greens. It's basically a very dense fruit and vegetable extract powder, and I do a liter of water, and I also do a teaspoon of salt. Okay, so basically, the important point that I want that relates to this is getting in those electrolytes and water before your day starts. All right, so I would highly recommend that. See if that makes a difference. You know, if you think that this has anything to do with glucose, having enough glucose. You know, the only thing I would say to this is if you maybe have some sort of pre-diabetes or something like that, or you suffer from hyperglycemia, if you have something where your body's not able to regulate blood sugar levels well, then yes, you could have that. But based on like what you're eating here, I mean, you could probably go the whole day. If you have healthy regulation of blood sugar levels, you know, your body can deal with that. I'm not saying that you have that. I'm just saying that could be a possibility. It could be just general fatigue. All right. It could just be that you're working out a lot. If I'm not mistaken, I think that you said above and beyond doing, I think you're doing 4 classes per week. You're doing some other form of exercise, like you do some other classes that you do, and then you're skiing on the weekend. How much sleep are you getting? Okay, that would be something else I'd want to look at. So those would be some of the big things that stick out in my mind, okay, when it comes to this this shakiness that you're encountering, okay? And I'm assuming, I know we talked about this a little bit, but you can refresh me on this. Are you lacking in energy? Okay, so like, do you feel like you don't have energy? Like, do you feel fatigued? Okay, so, you know, let me know. Additional comments. I'm happy with the progress because I am feeling smaller and less bloated after this first week. Okay, great. Yeah, I'm still into the end of the first week here, so let's move along. How am I doing? 8:45. Wow. Always baffles me how much talking I can do. All right, name something specific you can improve upon for the following week. Tighter caloric control. Who wrote this? Tighter caloric control. Some irritability, sleep difficulty, obsessing about feeling hungry while adjusting the diet changes that I need to manage better. All right, so one thing we can do here before you go to bed, if you have a hard time falling asleep, or maybe you fall asleep and then you end up waking up, try having some starch, specifically some starch-based carbohydrates, somewhere in the neighborhood of 25 to 50 grams, before you go to bed. This will help with the production of serotonin and something else, and it's slipping my mind right now. Anyways, this will help you to sleep better. Okay, this will help you to relax and sleep better. So maybe, I know it seems a bit counterintuitive, like, oh, I shouldn't really be eating, especially carbohydrates before I go to bed. Truth is, it doesn't really matter. Okay, it's what you eat throughout the entire day on a recurring basis, really. Have some starch, So again, if you're having problems sleeping or staying asleep, especially if you feel hungry, have some starchy carbohydrates, specific, not sugars. Go with more starch. I realize that, and I already mentioned this in one of my videos, that starch and sugar are not really that different. But starch will have a bit of a difference in terms of the release into the bloodstream. Now, if you're mixing this with some protein and some fiber and you have some sugar, it's going to be a different story, of course, okay? All right, 10:30. Let's get to the message of the day. On this day 18, what? Oh, I like this one. Oh no, it's not the one that I thought it was. But it's actually not a bad one. All right, let's just get to it. The difference between who you are and who you want to be lies in what you do, right? The difference between who you are and who you want to be lies in what you do. Just about checking off those check boxes, right? Doing everything you need to do to be successful in this challenge, like your cardio and your weights and your food management, right? And I'll just remind you again, does your food diary accurately reflect your food intake? Right? So just be careful with that, okay? The difference between who you are and who you want to be simply lies in what you do. Again, we want to focus on habits, not motivation. Motivation is great. I still get times where I get motivated or I see something that motivates me, or maybe sometimes I even motivate myself, as arrogant as that may sound. But the point is these, motivation comes and goes, right? We got to build these habits, right? Habits will change who you are, right? Because habits are just as what they are. They're habits. They're things that you keep doing on a regular basis. Positive energy, positive vibes. Believe in yourself, and for the love of God, give some gratitude. And I'll talk to you all tomorrow. See ya.